Well, new administration, and we're starting to see some reversals.
Welcome to the show that takes up no more than 5 minutes of your time, but could help you gain massive real estate knowledge. It's 5 Minutes in Real Estate with best-selling author Shane Willis.
All right, so I've been getting all kinds of questions about this FHA cut suspension and what exactly is the new administration doing and what should we be talking about in real estate with this, and are they sending any signals and all that. Let's get some clarification first. First of all, President Obama had put in on January 9th that he was going to cut the premiums for FHA insurance. I kind of looked at that, and that was a shocker to most of us in the industry because I know that there's a minimum reserve set for the FHA program, and it's supposed to be 2%. But and I know that they've exceeded it. It's like 2.1 or 2.2 or something like that. But that's not really a huge overage to help cover for these losses. Let me back up and kind of explain what that premium does. The premium is set for the program. Remember, I think the program did something like 1.1 million loans last year. And so if there are some losses on those loans, like we saw in 2008, 2009, 2010, those losses have to be absorbed somehow. They are absorbed by that insurance premium. That insurance premium covers basically their emergencies. So if it's the statute says that it needs to be at 2%. So 2% of our loans we need to have covered. The current balance is about 2.1, 2.2. That's what I was saying a minute ago. But let me kind of put that in perspective for us, because all of a sudden we see percentages and politicians can make it seem, well, Trump's hurting the American people or whatever. I don't, here's my thoughts on it. When I first got out of high school and was starting college, I got into financial services while I was doing my military time. One of the things in the financial services that I taught people and that I learned was setting up emergency funds to help with their personal finances, so that most Americans, if an emergency comes up, the first thing they reach for is a credit card. They can't write $1,000 check. I was shocked at that there's a lot of people that just cannot write $1,000 check. So they go to their credit cards instead. So one of the things I taught the clients that I worked with, and I was an intern under a guy who'd been doing it for years, and I watched him teach over and over and over, you need to have 3 to 6 months worth of income that you make every month set aside as an emergency fund. So if you make, say, if the household makes $5,000 a month, well, you need $15,000 to $30,000 set aside just in case something happens to you, you can't work. So there's an emergency that happens. So the minimum, though, is 1 month. The absolute minimum was 1 month. People were throwing a lot of money into a retirement account that you can't touch, but they didn't have $1,000 to write if an emergency comes up. And let's face it, it's not a matter of if the car is going to break down. It's going to matter of when. Even if you got the nice cars, it's just a matter of when. You got to have an emergency. The refrigerator's going to go out. Stuff's going to happen. So you've got to have that set. So the minimum was a month. But if we've only got $1,000 and you set that goal of, hey, let me get that $1,000 set aside, that's fantastic. We got the $1,000, which is what FHA has right now. They've got the bare minimum that the statute requires. And in our scenario, they may have, $1,200, not just $1,000. They may have $1,200. But if we saw another crash, or if something happened where there was a natural disaster, and there was a lot of mortgages that just could not be paid off, and there was a huge drain on that emergency fund. Let's say in our personal finances, the car went out, you lost your job, and the refrigerator went out, and something's wrong with the dog. So all of a sudden, now you got to write checks left and right. I think that dropping that insurance premium was a little premature. I know I talked about it when they did it. I went, hey, they decided to do it. Fantastic. It wasn't going to save the average person. Most of our buyers and sellers around here, or the buyers, this is affecting the buyers, but most of the buyers around here, it would have saved, $30 a month, $40 a month, which does happen. If you're right on that cusp, that does make a difference. So I was happy to see it, but it didn't make sense strategically to me when you look at the macro level. So, I'll just huff and puff of, hey, this is what's going on. I think it makes more business sense, just like when I taught personal finances. Why don't we get up to that 6 months of income set aside? I've seen people that I work with that have a year's income. So if they lost their job, they'd be okay for a year set in an emergency fund, and that's set up. Okay, that makes a whole lot more difference. So I think we still need to get a little bit more reserves. We've gotten some reserves since, 2012. We're starting to see some appreciation. So I don't think it'll be long before we can go back and start cutting rates some. But maybe that was just a little premature. And so now we need to keep those rates the way it is for now, build up the reserves a little bit more, then we can start cutting back some. Let's face it, FHA is going to be used a lot. It's only 3.5% down. You can even get gift funds for that 3.5% down. So you really could still use this program as a zero money down if somebody was going to help you with down payments. Again, very, very specific on who can do that. I wrote a blog post about that, and I'll put a link below on who can do that if you want to go check out who can actually give you gift funds. But the program is very, very strong. It wrote $1.1 million worth of loans or 1.1 million loans, not dollars, but 1.1 million loans last year. And I think it'll write the same this year because those cuts never really went into effect. It was just projected to go into effect here in a few days, and that's been suspended. I think we got to build up those reserves so that we can continue to have this strong program availability for buyers with a little bit lower down payment. Anyways, hope you picked up something on this particular episode. Make sure you visit the website, shanewillis.com/podcasts to hear other episodes, or if you're listening on iTunes, give us a like, give us a comment. All right? Thanks again for listening, and you have a fantastic week.